Ever catch yourself, scrolling through those credits at the end of a movie and thinking, man, I'd love to see my name up there. Video or motion picture producer, it's got a ring to it, right? But what does it actually entail? Like day to day, we're doing a deep dive into RoleCatcher's career guide today to break down this career path. Got to separate the silver screen fantasy from, well, the reality of life on set.
And trust me on this one, there's a lot going on behind those scenes that most people wouldn't even think about.
Right. Okay, so we've got this guide, basically an insider's look at becoming a video and motion picture producer. Where do we even begin?
Let's put the whole red carpet thing aside for a sec. This guide, it really drives home the point that this job, it's not about like discovering the next Spielberg. It's about understanding the business side of filmmaking just as much as the creative side.
So it's not all about having a good eye for a shot. Is that what you're saying?
It's way more than that. Think about those behind the scenes things you see on TV. Total controlled chaos, right? A whole army of people running around. The producer, they're the conductor of that orchestra. You're juggling budgets, contracts, personalities, the whole thing. It's this high wire act balancing creativity and logistics.
That's where a guide like this comes in handy.
Exactly. It's like they took all those things people whisper about on set, those things they don't teach you in film school, and put it all down in black and white.
Okay, so give us the inside scoop. What's something that really surprised you about what producers actually do?
Well, we all know they handle money, right? But this guide, it gets into the nitty-gritty. Like, did you know that a lot of times producers actually have to secure different types of funding all throughout a project, even while it's being made?
Wow.
You could be in the middle of negotiating post-production financing while they're still shooting the film.
Wow. It's definitely not like you just get the green light and coast to the premiere, is it?
Not at all. It's constant hustling, creative problem solving. You always have to be 10 steps ahead. And this guide, it really emphasizes those less glamorous but totally essential aspects of the job, the things that really determine whether a project is going to be successful or not.
Right, so forget casual coffee runs. We're talking major decision-making here. The guide also talks about a typical career ladder.
It does, and I really appreciate that they don't try to sugarcoat how tough the climb can be. You often start as a production assistant, which means you're basically soaking up everything you can, like a sponge.
So even fetching those coffees could be building valuable skills.
Oh, absolutely. As a PA, you're interacting with everybody on set. You learn who does what, how different departments communicate. That's networking gold right there.
It's like a crash course in the ecosystem of a film set.
Exactly. And as you move up that ladder, assistant producer, associate producer, those insights that you're getting, those on-the-ground insights become absolutely essential. You're not just managing spreadsheets anymore. You're using that knowledge of how things really work to anticipate problems before they even happen.
It's like you said, it's not just about having a good eye. It's about seeing that bigger picture. And speaking of seeing the bigger picture, this guide mentions the impact of artificial intelligence on the industry.
It does, and it's a really fascinating look at how AI is changing things for anyone who's serious about a career in production. We're not talking like robot directors yet, anyway. But AI is changing the way films are made, how they're marketed, even how audiences discover them in the first place.
So AI is more like this powerful new tool in the producer's toolkit.
Exactly. Think about it. What if you could use AI to look at a script and figure out if there are plot holes before they turn into crazy expensive reshoots? Or use it to predict which types of audiences are going to connect with the film. That makes your marketing dollars go a lot further.
It's almost like having a crystal ball, but one that's powered by data instead of magic.
Precisely. And that's what makes these insights from RoleCatcher so valuable. They stress that you don't have to be a tech genius to understand AI. It's becoming fundamental for producers who want to stay ahead of the curve.
They even say that AI is changing how producers find jobs.
Right.
Something about algorithms and applications.
Yes. And this is where it becomes critical to understand how to work with these systems. You know that image of a huge stack of resumes sitting on someone's desk? Forget it. Today, a lot of applications are screened by AI, and they're looking for really specific keywords, skills that line up perfectly with what's in the job description.
So it's like there's this digital gatekeeper that's deciding if your resume is even going to make it to a human being.
In a way, yeah. That's why RoleCatcher puts so much emphasis on making sure your application materials are optimized for these systems. It's not about trying to trick the algorithm. It's about learning how to present your experience in a way that it understands.
Okay, so RoleCatcher sounds really important for navigating this whole new world of AI-driven filmmaking. But what about the human side of things? This guide, it emphasizes networking, right?
Absolutely. No matter how advanced technology gets, filmmaking is, at its core, a collaborative art form. You have to be able to build those relationships, foster those human connections. That's essential.
So those networking events aren't just about schmoozing. They're crucial for career survival.
They're super valuable. And it's not just the big industry events. This
No.
guide really stresses that networking can happen anywhere, on set, in workshops, even online forums.
It's like they always say, right? It's not always about what you know, but who you know. But in this case, it's probably a good bit of both, wouldn't you say?
100%. And you know what I like about this guide? They don't just tell you to go network, they break it down. Like, how do you actually do it? They suggest things like joining professional organizations, like the Producers Guild of America.
Right. Find your people, the ones who really get what this job is all about, the good and the bad.
Exactly. These groups are not just for show. They have workshops, they do networking events, they even have mentorship programs. That kind of support, it's huge, especially in this industry, with all its ups and downs. And speaking of,
Speaking of ups and downs, we've talked about the whole AI thing, but this guide, it doesn't shy away from the hard parts of being a producer, does it? It feels pretty real.
right, I mean, you got to be realistic. One thing this guide really made me think about, well, rethink about, I guess, was the stamina this job takes. It's not even just about the long hours on set, though that's definitely real. It's more like a mental marathon. You have to have serious emotional intelligence. And this guide, they get that.
So you're not just juggling schedules and budgets, you're juggling personalities too.
Yes, you've got all these creative people, high-stakes decisions being thrown at you left and right, and on top of that, you're dealing with rejection constantly, and you got to keep a cool head through all of it for your team.
So you need some serious people skills. It's not just about being organized.
It's crucial. This guide goes deep on those challenges too, like for each different career stage. Remember how we were talking about that career ladder, starting as a production assistant?
Right, from fetching coffee to like calming down the director who's yelling cut for the 10th time.
Exactly. When you're starting out, it's all about absorbing everything you can, showing you're reliable, and starting to build those relationships that'll matter later.
Paying your dues, but in a way that actually teaches you what you need as you move up.
Right. But then, when you get to that next level, assistant producer or associate producer, the game changes again. You're not just following instructions anymore. You're managing up, predicting problems, sometimes making big calls with like barely any information to go on.
That makes me think about AI again. Could AI ever replace an actual producer? Someone who have that gut feeling you get from experience.
It's the million-dollar question, right? And this guide, it's interesting. They recognize how much influence AI is getting, but in the end, they stress how important human judgment is, especially for creative decisions.
Like that gut feeling you're talking about, the kind you can only get from years of doing this. There's no algorithm for that.
Exactly. AI can analyze a script, predict what audiences might like, even help make the whole production process more efficient. But can it get what makes a story really resonate with people? Like on an emotional level, I'm not so sure about that.
That's where the human element comes in.
Right. And this guide, it highlights those qualities, those instincts you can't teach: intuition, empathy, knowing how to inspire a team. Those are the things that'll make human producers irreplaceable, even as technology gets better and better. It's about balance, using the tech, but never forgetting that at the heart of it, filmmaking is about people.
Speaking of the heart of it all, this guide also talks about finding your niche as a producer, right?
Absolutely. It's not enough to just be a producer. This industry, it thrives on people specializing. Maybe you're drawn to a certain kind of film documentaries, sci-fi, romantic comedies, whatever. Or maybe there's a specific style you love, or even a social issue you're passionate about exploring in your work.
So how do you go from just loving movies to being known for a particular kind of film?
You have to start with yourself. Really be honest about what you're good at and what makes you excited. What are your strengths? What stories grab you? What perspective do you bring that nobody else does? This guide really pushes you to ask yourself those questions.
It's like creating your own personal brand, but for your career as a producer.
Exactly. And the guide, they give you concrete steps you can take. Have you ever done an informational interview?
I've heard of it. The whole reaching out to people you admire in the industry thing. To be honest, it kind of makes me nervous.
I totally get that. But this guide makes a really good case for why it's so valuable. Let's say you're really into documentaries, right? They say you should seek out producers whose work you admire and reach out.
Not even necessarily asking for a job, just to chat about their career, the challenges they face, that kind of thing.
Yeah, a lot of people, they're happy to talk about their experiences, especially if they see that you're really passionate. It's not about asking for favors, it's about gathering information to help you make better decisions about your own path.
Like getting a peek behind the curtain of a specific part of the industry.
Exactly. It's super valuable. And this guide encourages it throughout, this whole idea of being proactive. Now, once you've got a better sense of where you want to focus, it's time to get your hands dirty. You know what I mean?
So less dreaming, more doing. What does that look like for someone just starting out, especially now when anyone can make a YouTube video?
That's the thing. It's both easier and harder than ever to break into this field. And this guide gets that it's this weird paradox. On the one hand, you can literally start making films on your phone, experimenting, finding your style, all that.
But then how do you actually stand out? There's so much out there.
That's where you need a strategy. The guide talks about being really intentional about what you work on, who you're collaborating with, even how you present yourself online. It's all about building that portfolio, but it has to reflect you, your niche, your vision for the kind of producer you want to be.
So it's about more than just making, good videos. It needs to be strategic, something that actually helps you reach your goals as a producer, right?
Exactly. And this guide has some really solid advice on that. One thing they mention is reaching out to smaller production companies, maybe even independent filmmakers, people whose work you really connect with.
So instead of aiming for Spielberg right off the bat, you start by connecting with the up-and-coming Spielbergs.
Exactly. Even volunteering your skills on a smaller project can be huge. It's a chance to get your hands dirty, build relationships, get your name out there.
Right, those early experiences, even if you're not getting paid, they can really pay off later on.
Absolutely. This industry runs on relationships and reputation. When you prove yourself as a hard worker, someone who's passionate and dependable, that makes a difference. This guide, it really emphasizes that hustle, that drive to learn from the ground up. That's often what separates the people who make it from the ones who don't.
The old talent, hard work, and a little bit of luck combination.
It's true. And speaking of luck, this guide doesn't pretend it doesn't play a role in this career either.
Because even with all the hard work and networking in the world, sometimes it really does come down to being in the right place at the right time.
It's true. But here's the thing about luck. You can actually create more of it by being proactive. This guide, they want you to go out there to those industry events, strike up conversations, even if it feels awkward at first.
Being open to opportunities, even if they're a little scary.
Exactly. You just never know who you're going to meet, what doors might open. A chance encounter could totally change your whole career trajectory.
Like they say, the harder you work, the luckier you get.
It's so true. And this guide really drives that home throughout. It's refreshing, honestly, to see such a realistic take on what it takes to make it in film production. Because it's not all glitz and glamour, right? Sure, there are those exciting moments, but at the end of the day, it's a business. You need grit, you need determination, and you have to be okay with not knowing what's coming next.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's one piece of advice from this guide that you'd want every aspiring producer to remember?
Oh man, that's a tough one. But if I had to pick, I'd say it's this. Never stop learning. This industry is constantly changing, so you have to be like a sponge, Read everything you can get your hands on, go to workshops, follow those industry blogs, and don't be afraid to experiment with new technologies.
Because the second you think you know it all is the second you start falling behind.
Exactly. And honestly, that's part of what makes this career path so exciting. It's this lifelong journey of discovery. You're always pushing boundaries, finding new and innovative ways to bring stories to life.
I love that. Well said. So to anyone out there dreaming of seeing their name roll by in those credits, remember this. Passion, perseverance, and that willingness to learn are the most valuable things you have.
And hey, don't forget to have some fun along the way.
Absolutely. This industry is built on passion. If you're not enjoying the ride, what's the point? Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the world of video and motion picture production. Until next time, stay curious.